Hey gamers, how you doing? I'm sure you've all heard the news already, as there are no fake gamers in my community. So it's purely for the sake of narrative that I remind you that Jeffrey K's special day is once again almost upon us. The Game Awards. The Oscars of gaming will be held on December the 11th. And all of us, even me, and especially even you, are very excited to see upon whom Mr. Keighley will deign to shine his golden light this year. I thought it might be fun for us to go through and outline our picks as like a little community. Gamers and gentlemen, who do we like? The first thing you might notice about the Video Game Awards, from the perspective of a hypothetical new gamer, is that boy howdy, there sure are a lot of them. New ones come and go from time to time, but at present there are a frustrating 29 awards to be awarded. It's my personal opinion that Jeff could add one more award and make it an even 30. Perhaps a special Jeff's Choice bonus pick. They do already struggle to give everyone enough time to actually receive the awards though, so if that's out of the question, you could maybe just chop off the whole bottom row here. I doubt anyone would mind. Speaking of, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up through the absolute dregs to the prestigious Game of the Year, starting with Best Esports Team. Right. Now, I'm sure all of these children are equally eligible of a Game Award. Unfortunately, I've never personally seen any of them before in my life, so some of my picks are going to have to be sort of based on vibes, gut feelings, messages from the universe, you know? In this instance, there was a battle rapper called PH once, and a second battle rapper called Definition, spelled wrong. Almost came to blows with him after an event. The man was very drunk. Def was a teacher who lost his job when the school found out about his rather vulgar rap hobby. And these days he hosts one of those horrible YouTube ending explain channels for a job. If a fight had broken out, PH could have lifted him up and snapped his spine the same way you might disassemble a toothpick. So as a modicum of sense returned to the man, it quickly became Def's priority to try and drunkenly de-escalate the situation. As a third battle rapper told him afterwards during his failed Don't Flop title shot, his alky lines couldn't make PH neutral. For this reason, and also because Valorant, Counter-Strike and both Dotas are horrible, while Mobile Legends Bang Bang is a completely improvised video game title that it would be impossible to convince me actually exists, I'm gonna give my little Oscar nod to Team PH. Godspeed, lads. Keep on doing whatever it is you do in that game you made up. We run into a similar situation with Best Esports Athlete, but it just so happens I follow Street Fighter a little bit. I mean, I'll check out EVO on the rare occasion that I remember it's on. And I actually know who Mena is, on top of him being the only gamer here with a cool hat. Kakaru also plays Street Fighter, but he's a JP main, and I don't think the Video Game Awards should encourage bad behaviour. So my pick goes to Mena RD. Although a friend of the show, Keish, has said that they really want this one, so maybe we could get them there on the write-in vote. They did beat Silent Hill F on really, really hard mode this year, and have a 77% completion score on Dark Cloud 2. A lot of people I know kinda turn their nose up at the idea that a video game could be EA Sports, and I kinda disagree. Now, I don't want people to think that my principles as a hardline anti-video game activist have slipped any. I just think that basically anything can be a sport if there's enough active competition. Gaming is a serious field for a lot of young morons, and it's cutthroat out there. Most competitors never make it onto a serious team, and the ones that do tend to be washed up by 25, as soon as their reactions dip to sub-peak levels. It's not a field of competition that I like or respect at all, but it certainly has all the downsides of other quests for athletic excellence. That said, what are we doing here? Counter-Strike and Dota we've briefly touched on the show before. Counter-Strike no longer really exists as a game someone would just play as a pastime, in my eyes. It's all sport. I've not heard of a fan who doesn't also follow the esports league and uphold a rigorous aim trainer regimen, in the desperate hope that one day they too could hoist a Jeff Award, despite the fact that the actual game underlying all of this hope is and has always been terrible. Dota is much worse, because normal people sometimes pick it up and quickly shrivel away into toxic, golem-like creatures. I think Dota's done more damage to the human spirit and just civilization as a whole than any other video game to date. It's sort of the Turner Diaries of gaming, and it's on here twice for some reason. Valorant we've not talked about because I forget it exists. Every time someone tells me people are still playing it, I'm surprised. It looks awful. Jeffy Boy's really doubling down on trying to convince me that Mobile Legends Bang Bang is a real video game this year, but whatever, I'll take the bet. With the caveat that if basically any other realer video game were in this category, that would be my pick. It's just the three worst ones and one that's made up. Next, we got Content Creator of the Year, the award that many people are saying is good and should exist. In the middle here, we've got Moist Critical, Gaming Jesus himself. This is a pious man who's dedicated his life to bringing the gaming masses back into God's light. And as futile an endeavour as that is, and even though I've never watched even a minute of his content, you can't help but root for the guy. Mr. Moist is my pick, even though I don't think he'd accept it. Did he not famously say, "Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and everyone who humbles himself will be exalted"? If you told me you'd made up the other four entrants, I would believe you. Absolutely no idea who these people are. One of them is a peanut. The final category on the bottom row is the Ghost of Games Yet to Come award for things that don't even exist yet. And let's all be honest, I think this year you could fairly safely rename it the Grand Theft Auto 6 award for being Grand Theft Auto 6. That game was recently delayed a little bit, if you're up on your news, and that was because a lot of Rockstar staff tried to unionize and were unlawfully fired on the spot. So that's fun. Cool company there. Personally, I think GTA 6 will be total shit, as every GTA since San Andreas has been. It's pretty unlikely I'll play any of these video games, to be honest, at least for a very long time. If I got to pick just one, it would probably be the Resident Evil. Capcom have been cooking with us for a fair few years now, and I got faith in them to do it again. Even though I think all the teasers and trailers so far have looked rubbish. I don't like James Bond. I only like Wolverine when he's yelling, "I'm the best at what I do," too many times. And while a lot of people are probably good and hyped for more Witcher, I think that franchise, and most Western RPGs as a whole, are incredibly boring. The Game Awards first came into being in 2014, but only with the end of Jeff Keighley's Spike TV Video Game Awards, which came before, and ran for a prior 11 years. Of course, they don't want you to remember all this nowadays, but I think this is important to the overall story. You can't fully understand what we're dealing with here without talking about where it came from, and it certainly looked a lot different back in the day. Less suits, for a start.
The winner for the Game of the Year, Madden 2004 EA Sports.
At the 2003 VGAs, Rey Mysterio fought Chris Jericho in an on-site squared circle, and Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball won the award for Best Animations.
DOA Extreme Volleyball, Tecmo, come on down.
A reminder that it is December at the time of this awards show, and all of these women in their underpants are cold.
He's handsome, he's hilarious, he's off the chain. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my Def Jam Fight for New York co-host, me. Co-host? Do I look like Kelly Ripa to your ass? You the co-host, fool. Easy, Crow. I'm the host, and the only reason your cyber ass is here is because my crew got beef with Qbert, and the producers didn't want another Vibe Wars up in here. Man, no one wants to see your crew. Real people are played out, man. What you talking about, Willis? I haven't seen any real plumbers named Mario kicking it with fine princesses lately, have you? That may be true. Qbert.
The 2005 awards were largely and inexplicably hosted by Sam Jackson. Yes, that Sam Jackson. a recurring character in the early Game Awards canon.
To be here tonight, celebrating video games. That's right, video games.
There, Maria Menounos was declared the year's best cyber vixen, beating out fictional character Joanna Dark. There, Maria Menounos was declared... Fuck off. There, Maria Menounos was declared the year's best cyber vixen, beating out fictional character Joanna Dark. And World of Warcraft won the prestigious, most addictive game fueled by Mountain Dew award. Fuck off.
And the winner is World of Warcraft.
Accepting for World of Warcraft is Frank Pierce.
Spike's 2006 Video Game Awards are sponsored by Pontiac, designed for action. By Mountain Dew, do the do. And by the U.S. Air Force.
Come 2006, Tenacious D would perform at the VGAs. 50 Cent, who's also a recurring character, announced the award for Best Human Female.
What's up? This is what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna get into the best human female.
Taking over from Vin Diesel on the previous show.
I am here to present the award for best performance by a human female.
Meanwhile, Best Human Male would go to Patrick Stewart for his performance as a guy who dies 10 seconds into oblivion.
Best performance by a human female.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how they keep getting him. Does he know what this is? Has anyone told him?
But they will also be revealing our winners all over their bodies. And the winner is all of us. This is what Spike calls a great read, and we all know that reading is fundamental. Yes. Tonight, we are in the presence of greatness. Give it up for Steve Wiebe, the King of Kong, who's gonna bring us all the way to Donkey Kong Kill Screen.
You don't want to listen to me. You want to see the world premiere of the video game Iron Man something or other. Here it is. Thank you.
World premiere.
What is the measure of a man? Is it the fruit of his labors, or the secrets of his heart?
Most addictive video game fueled by Dew.
I'm suddenly not gay. The winner is Halo 3.
We're going to the green room, courtesy of Stride, with Spike TV's Jeff Keighley. And from the upcoming DVD release, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, Steve...
Oh, there he is. It's the boy.
So, Steve, millions of people are watching here. You're going to take down the big gorilla. You're at, what, 479,000?
That's the plan, Jeff.
It's getting kind of late in the show, though. You have to get to 1 million, right?
Yeah,
You gonna do it?
Kind of going for a cool substitute teacher kind of vibe.
Here for the first time on television, presenting a tribute to classic video games is...
Video Games Live.
Fuck off, Jeff. He's busy. The 2008 awards have largely been scrubbed from the internet, but they were hosted by Jack Black, and 50 Cent came back. Perhaps he handed the Gamer God Award to Will Wright, creator of The Sims and Spore. Who knows? 2009 had Jack Black, Snoop Dogg, and Sam fucking Jackson again. Just an aside here, Jack Black is a hot contender for my personal Worst Human Male award.
Okay, guys, here's the deal. Action is when you see a hot girl across the bar and you walk up and kiss her. Adventure is when you find out she has a boyfriend who is in the bathroom. Action adventure is when you're running down the street wearing just your boxers with an angry boyfriend trying to kill you. I'm glad I could clear that up for you.
That guy looks just like Tony Hawk.
I have a bone to pick with this particular man, all right? He is the executive...
At the 2010 award show, they didn't award the awards during the show, which is wild. According to the Wikipedia page, this year was most notable for the showdown Jeff Keighley had with Angry Joe before the event. Look at him in his little bow tie, looking like a haunted ventriloquist dummy.
Post a video about it.
Yeah, I'll
But
post.
you know what's great about this show, I think, is that it works for gamers. The gamers love the world premieres, and I think it also it shows the best of our industry to a wider, more.
Here's the
mainstream
problem
audience.
with particular categories like best independent game fueled by Mountain Dew.
Well,
it kind
I
of
got news
takes
for you.
away. Yeah.
We don't have that category of the show.
Oh, so you took away the best independent
No,
game
we
fueled
didn't.
by
We took
Mountain
away
Dew.
Mountain Dew. We have
They took away Mountain Dew?
Perfect. Love it.
As another aside, Angry Joe is another hot competitor for Worst Human Male.
This is a worse environment to conduct an interview in. Essentially.
Oh god, there's two of them now. I do think you can feel some of the veneer peeling off by this point in the VGA's run. There is still a wild amount of money behind them, and still constant weird celebrity cameos, such as Knack and professional liar Hulk Hogan this year, 2011. But you might have noticed I've started saying less about each individual one, and that's because they're really boring now. It's all just kind of a confusing swirl of lights and colours and advertisements for various branches of the US military, and beleaguered celebs trying to make gamer references they don't understand and aren't funny to begin with. Apparently, Mark Hamill and Tara Strong showed up for this one, but the categories they were supposed to be nominated for didn't, and they were both rather confused. Don't get me wrong, you've seen the evidence. The VGAs were always messy and terrible. But I think by this point they were starting to get bigger and trying to appeal to an audience outside of Spike TV, and didn't have any idea what that might look like. Around now is when people would start being very critical about the show, and it'd only get worse from there.
Jeff, ты работал не покладая рук.
I'm sorry about the strange Russian men talking, by the way. To the best of my knowledge, there does not currently exist a No Strange Russian Men version of the 2011 or 2012 award shows on the internet.
Yes, Comic-Con. How was it?
Keighley had also come under some negative perception by gamers in 2012 after he was presenting information about Halo 4 while sitting among stands advertising Mountain Dew and Doritos products.
Sort of the last consumer show of the year.
Several people critiqued this presentation as a sign of lack of journalism standards, and the scenario became known as Doritos Gate within the gaming community, while Keighley was derogatorily called Dorito Pope. 12. Eurogamers Robert Florence criticised Keighley's presentation and the state of game journalism at that time. Quote, Jeff Keighley is often described as an industry leader, a games expert. He is one of the most prominent games journalists in the world. And there he sits, right there, beside a table of snacks. He will be sitting there forever, in our minds. And that's where he is now. And in a sense, he is what he always was. 13. The event led to Keighley reviewing his current career.
Sure,
6.
You've probably seen it or may have played it previously.
In 2013, Jeff tried to rebrand the show as the first VGX. There would never be a second VGX.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever VGX. I'm Joel McHale, and we're coming to you live from LA's beautiful Garment District. I'm an actual gamer. Yes, I know the difference between Miss Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. One of them is his mom. I'm not sure which. I'm thrilled to be here, mostly because I'm really, really good at scoring free stuff from developers. I'm joined by my dear, dear friend, Jeff Keighley, who I met for the first time 5 minutes ago. He's an actual expert, so together, we've got things covered. And I know you're all wondering what VGX means. It's the next-gen, next-level version of the VGAs. The VG stands for video games, and the X stands for Xenu, the one true god. Over to you, Jeff.
It's great to have you with us, Joel.
Thank you.
Great to have some fun, show some games off.
It's great to see how layered you are, Jeff.
Yeah, four layers for 3 hours.
You're from Toronto. You got to be prepared for
We've
snow.
got a lot of
The
great
show was hosted for the first time by Jeff Keighley himself, and co-hosted by comic actor Joel McHale, who, by all available evidence, was being held there against his will. Joel would take his revenge, though, by, between escape attempts, being as annoying as possible to Jeff personally, and to every guest from the industry he was allowed to come into contact with.
Is doing quite well here in this market, so that's
How much
wonderful
money
to
have
see.
you made?
Joel, I love these questions. I love these questions.
Hey, Jeff, we're halfway through the show. Does that mean you're going to take a layer off?
Yes, let's do it.
In general, he alternates randomly between aggressively reading the teleprompter and just saying things that make Jeff want to curl up into his little jacket and disappear. You could see the will to live fading from Jeff's eyes in real time as his horrible show bombed. It was without a doubt the most exciting event he'd put on in years, but for all the wrong reasons.
To announce the nominees for Best Cameo in a Video Game and/or Video Game Award Presentation segment from Rooster Teeth Productions, Bernie Burns and Joel Heyman.
There's definitely a lot less bombast involved in the production this time around too, and the cameos have really taken a hit. Here are two guys from Rooster Teeth for some reason. The guy on the right played the funny dumb guy in Red vs. Blue, and is also the one who got really into QAnon and started threatening to bring a gun into the office to shoot his co-workers in real life. Neither of them is the paedophile, that's a different guy. Cool company. Shame they're not around anymore.
How much did you pay him?
That's exactly.
Okay,
How much did the backers pay him? That's the question.
All right, we have a Twitter question. I know you're excited.
Twitter.
This is from @Melroth. He or she asks, "Hey Tim Schafer, what are your words of encouragement for a fledgling indie developer?"
Wow, that's really. I feel like I need to someone's future is
Just
in my
be
hands.
honest and say, "Don't try."
Don't try. No, it's like this is a great time because like we show with our Kickstarter, you don't necessarily have to get permission from some big company to make something you love. You can actually just put your thing out there, and if people like it, they will fund it, and you can do it.
You'll get $3 million, no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that'd be the end of him. You'd imagine that might be the end of the whole story right there. Everything going down in one final catastrophe. But it was actually Jeff who walked from Spike TV and pulled the plug on the VGXs himself, saying that they'd become too commercial, and not that if they ever put him in a room with Joel McHale again, only one of them would leave. Jeff didn't want to do some weird trashy nonsense show. His vision was the same as it had ever been. The Oscars for games. And setting out on his own, he was able to use contacts within the industry to pull it together into the show we see today. Suits and all.
When you say which game you are most excited about, that causes ripples through the video game universe.
Well, I try, yes, I have to be fair.
You have to be very political. I know you're going to say, I like them all for different reasons.
Exactly. No, I will say we've got some amazing stuff still coming up in the show.
Name one game that you're really excited about.
Well, I'm really excited. We have Titanfall later.
So that's the most excited. All the other games don't matter to you. Just say it. Just say, Jeff, don't care about any other games except for Titanfall.
Destiny looks fantastic.
Anyway, we're way behind on awards. Let's try not to be too distracted. Best Adaptation is an award for adapting a video game into another entertainment medium, where I won't see it. It kind of feels like there shouldn't be an award here. Like, they're stealing your stuff, Jeff, and making it into movies and shit. You hate movies. That's your dad's thing. We'll get to that. Speaking of, there's that fucking Minecraft movie. I haven't seen it, but I sincerely hope Jack Black's house blows up and he falls into a lake of lava. Out of all these things I haven't seen and probably won, I think I'd be happiest if the Devil May Cry one was good. So, that's gonna have to get my vote. I'm never actually going to vote or sign in, by the way. It's going to say that on all of them forever. Best Multiplayer is another really tough one for me, for the same reasons as usual. Ark Raiders is a game, I suppose, that I have never seen or heard of before this moment. Battlefield 6 is shitting for nerds. Split Fiction I saw some people streaming once and didn't particularly like the look of. Night Rain seems kinda bad too. Peak is one of the rare few video games that I've actually played this year, but I think it's completely horrible. It's one of those funny, goofy, play with friends type games. Friend slop, I've heard the genre called. You're meant to climb up a hill, but none of the controls or items or basic functions of the game work very well. And your funny little character will get too hungry to effectively move if he doesn't eat for about 30 seconds, so you all end up falling back down and being dead for 3/4 of the runtime. I played with my best friend, a circumstance under which it should be basically impossible to have a bad time, and was so annoyed we had to stop. I'll give this one to Night Rain, because while it does look kinda bad, the bonds are just Elden Ring, right? So surely there's a limit on how bad it could be. Maybe they should rename the award Least Bad Multiplayer Game this year. Not sure if it's common knowledge or not that I'm actually kind of a racing game enjoyer. I played a lot of Gran Turismo this year and would confess to having a great time doing it. Of course, no Gran Turismo actually came out this year, and I don't know a thing about any of these games. But honestly, Best Sports Racing actually seems a pretty easy pick, I think. Out of all 5 games, I've heard about Sonic and I've heard about Mario, and I think the Sonic one looks better. Boom, moving on. Killing it out here. Strategy games are sort of more my wheelhouse these days, not that I've played any of them. Tempest Rising, I've never heard of, but from this one image, it looks like it's trying to channel Command and Conquer. That's pretty cool. The Alters is a big pile of men, that's fun too. I think someone gifted me 2 Point Hospital way back, but I never played it, and this is a different guy. Jurassic World Evolution has always been shit, I'm shocked they've made a 3rd one. And Civ is a garbage franchise for assholes. Very annoying games, not much fun to be had with any of them. Of all the games here, this is the one I'm most confident is bad. I guess my pick goes to Final Fantasy Tactics in 2025, all the more happily since I think that's very funny. We got Best Family next, and you're not going to believe it, this is a really difficult one for me. Is Lego Party like Mario Party? Mario Party's shit. The Donkey Kong, I think Kanani did a bunch of videos and streams digging big weird holes in, but the game looked terrible. I don't like Nintendo, particularly, just in general. Speaking of, they never showed that fella defeating Donkey Kong at the Game Awards. I was waiting for updates the whole time and they just never cut back to him. With this in mind, the award should go to LEGO Voyages. I think I saw a trailer once and it looked kinda cute. I could just give it to Sonic again, but I don't like Sonic either, and I don't want him to get too big for his weird triangular shoes, you know? It's a bad year for fighting games when one of the nominees is a collection of Capcom fighting games past, and one is that Mortal Kombat collection that I've never heard a good word said about. Obviously, I've not played any of them. Is the Virtua Fighter any good? I'd be happy if Virtua Fighter was good. Give it the point, or whatever. RPG seems pretty open and shut. Avowed looks crap, Kingdom Come looks crap, Outer Worlds is definitely dog shit, Monster Hunter's too much like a job, and Expedition 33 looks actually really good. And the next one's got Silksong in it, so, you know. I'm the one guy still Silksong posting. Have you seen the latest trailer, guys? There won't be any more delays. It's gonna be out any day now. Unlike the VGAs, which were made of Spike TV, Mountain Dew, and nightmares, the Game Awards is a pure Jeffrey-type endeavour, pulled wholesale from the ether by this fella right here, despite him looking like the default creator character in some game where you play as a businessman. I got one more, sorry. He looks like he was AI generated from the prompt, man in a suit. Sad. Dead eyes. I think some of that 1,000-yard stare comes from his time at the VGXs. But just who is Jeff Keighley, other than the Dorito Pope and Joel McHale's enemy? Over the past 3 decades, Jeff Keighley has established himself as one of the leading media entrepreneurs, live event producers, and on-camera personalities in the entertainment industry. Whether he's hosting the Game Awards, producing the landmark 5-hour Discovery Channel series, The Rise of the Video Game, or exploring new ventures such as the live theatrical production, The Last of Us, One Night Live. Keighley has deftly moved between mediums to chronicle, celebrate, and cement games as the leading form of entertainment. Sensing a shifting media landscape in late 2014, Keighley created, self-financed, produced and hosted The Game Awards, an awards show for the video game industry, distributed exclusively via streaming platforms like YouTube and Twitch. The Game Awards is now one of the largest entertainment events in the world. The Hollywood Reporter recently recognized Keighley as one of the top 20 innovators in Hollywood for his work building the Game Awards, which in 2024 delivered a record-setting 154 million global live streams.
Tonight, it's the premiere of Game Trailers TV, and I'm locked and loaded with a world-exclusive bigger than the blast radius from an ion cannon. The first ever look at real gameplay from EA's new first-person action game Tiberium, set in the Command & Conquer universe.
Wow, Tiberium's looking great. Hope that comes out soon.
GTTV.
Once upon a time in Toronto, a couple by the names David and Patricia Keighley loved each other so much they decided to have 3 kids together. But they didn't like one of them, so they named him Jeff. Both senior Keeleys worked in the movies, being very important figures in the IMAX Corporation. IMAX, for the gamers in the audience, being a type of big fancy camera. They did a lot of work with major motion picture directors, detailing to figures such as Christopher Nolan how to use a camera. I'm being overly glib, but on a real, the Keeley parents were huge in the industry, and were instrumental in making some of the biggest films ever filmed look the way they do. And that's neat. A lot of people know about Jeff, but don't know his dad was kind of a big deal. Jeff didn't like the movies, though. He was, tragically, a gamer. The doctors said it was terminal. He really liked the look of the Oscars, though. At any rate, all that IMAX money put him through university, with degrees in business and philosophy, and he began writing about video games from his personal website, GameSlice, always from the standpoint of being a businessman. This was a change from the style at the time, in which writing about video games would either be steeped in hobbyist jargon or puerile late 90s, early 2000s attempts at humour. And he was seen as kind of the adult in the room. Although, I'd argue that Jeff does and always did talk about video games like a used car salesman, and has never been the type to profess an opinion he couldn't just as easily walk back. I'm in 2025 though, the dark age of video game journalism, where the majority of it's done by unfeeling, uncaring AIs, which haven't even played the games because they don't have hands. So what do I know? His writing got him a foot in the door at a bunch of different companies, which he'd used to write deep dives into the final stages of game development for various titles in the Final Hours series. Those ones seem like they did make an impression back in the day, and the OG ones are still hosted on GameSpot and still promoted on Jeff's personal website. From there he got in with Spike TV, and would see his television debut in 2008, hosting 11 seasons of Game Trailers TV.
Bigger than the blast radius from an ion cannon.
And making the transition from a games writer to an on-screen character, bedecked in the finest late aughts uncle fashion.
My favorite weapon, I think, is literally just the knife, and the idea that you can have these amazing moments where, you go up to one of these little dinosaurs and literally, slash his throat and see the blood come down. I mean, that's sort of...
Good grief, Jeff. From there, I suppose the rest is history. I think it's probably time for me to go on record here and say that I do not like the Game Awards. I'm not really a Jeff head. I honestly preferred the VGAs. They have a warm, period-appropriate anarchy about them in retrospect. I think 50 Cent and Vin Diesel should host the Best Human Female Award every year. In trying to explain what's wrong with the Game Awards to someone recently, I described the show as somehow being simultaneously too nerdy and not nerdy enough. And I stand by that. I think that most gamers either play games casually or have one or two specific series that they give a shit about. And that's all. At the broadest, they might care passingly about one whole genre. The Game Awards, to these hypothetical people, are too long, too boring, too full of trailers for things they don't like, and they have no reason to care who wins what award anyway. More seasoned gamers tend to play older games. I think this is because invariably if you play a lot of games, you'll find something you love, and then the world will move on, but you'll still have your thing. And if you're lucky, there'll be a dedicated modding community right there with you. At any rate, something like the Game Awards is of limited use to these people too. The game or games or trend or period of games they like did not come out this year, and is ineligible for the awards. Furthermore, even if something they like or even a new game they're interested in was mentioned, it'd be in too casual a context to mean anything to them. The Game Awards doesn't matter to people who like specific games a lot, but to people who like all games just a little bit. People who sit in rapt attention through a barrage of trailers they can't possibly care about and couldn't possibly afford all of to begin with. And even then, who of these people would care when some Mario composer shows up to play a song for them? The Game Awards is exclusively for people who've convinced themselves they have a vested interest in the industry, despite the fact they can only function within it as a consumer. Although, similarly to the Oscars, it's primarily watched by people who have nothing else going on, and have heard weird people making a big deal out of it. If I don't like or care about the Game Awards myself, you might ask why we're here at all, but I'd say it's in the finest Oscar tradition for me, as an old white guy behind the scenes, to pick at random from media I've never personally experienced to win some kind of fake-ass award. I might give Game of the Year to Green Book. Who's gonna stop me? Speaking of. So, here's the thing. There's this term in gaming that gets thrown around a lot. Roguelike. Used to belong to titles that were similar to the game Rogue, a complex, procedurally generated dungeoneering RPG with non-graphics, where death would spell the permanent end of that character, and nothing persisted but the players gained knowledge. From there, over the years, the term got looser and looser, until it could be broadly applied to any game in any genre, with procedural generation and permadeath. And there remain to this day a lot of people who get real mad when someone says that, like, Enter the Gungeon is a roguelike. And they're right to. They're just also annoying. So, I normally laugh at them. Personally, I tend to like roguelikes of all shapes, no matter how impenetrable or how casual. I think permadeath is cool, and I think games that are lots of different, gameplay-focused, short adventures with a lot on the line keep me interested a lot more easily than games that are just one long thing. Imagine then how excited I must have been when Supergiant Games, who had exclusively made bangers up to that point, announced that their next project was to be of the roguelike variety. Of course, when it did come out, I couldn't actually play it for a fucking age, because my computer was dying, and it was an Epic Games exclusive for like a year. But at the very least, I could hear reports from people who had experienced it. The verdict was in. Another banger. Expectations were high when I finally could sit down to play it, and I was immediately shocked to find that, for the first time, I understood how the "that's not a roguelike, it's not like Rogue" people must feel. Hades is a bad video game, but it's not just bad, it's also a liar. There certainly are runs, but the procedural generation in Hades boils down to what order you see some of the rooms in, and what colour the damage over time effects on your attacks are. Every run is essentially the exact same, making it just a shallow action game that you have to replay from the beginning each time you die. Meanwhile, a bunch of people with stupid voices are trying to tell a story around you in the most annoying way possible. Always trying to get your attention between runs for long enough to be a distraction, but not long enough to say anything at all substantial. Also, the boss fights, which aren't even random, are fucking terrible. As someone who cares about very few video games coming out and doesn't tend to get involved in hype cycles, Hades might just be the most disappointed I've ever been with a game. I know a lot of people like it, but as far as I can tell, that's purely because the characters are hot. There is absolutely nothing of merit underneath the pictures of hot cartoons. So yeah, Hades 2 does not get my pick. Doom looks alright, but from what I've heard, nothing actually runs it. I'll go Ninja Gaiden here. I've been a big Platinum Games head historically, and I've heard good things. Not that you can always trust that. VR is difficult for me to judge because I've neither the hardware, nor space, nor the constitution to ever actually use it. I live in a tiny box room where if I hold out my arms I touch the walls on both sides, and I get motion sick from non-VR games if the field of view is too narrow and the motion blur's not set to as off as possible. As a result, I don't pay a lot of attention to VR releases, which are beyond my grasp. And as a result, I've never heard of any of these 5 supposed video games. All I can say is definitely not Deadpool. People who like him are weird. My vote goes to Ghost Town because it's right in the middle. Oh wow, these ones are all terrible. This one, I know, is the weird Horse Girl game, from the month or so where all the freaks were pretending to be playing it ironically. Every time someone on my Steam friends list fired it up, I worried about them. The others I've not heard of at all. On principle, I don't want to vote for anything that's an anime, and Destiny fucking sucks, so I'm gonna have to give a second award to Sonic, although obviously I wouldn't play the game if you paid me. Best debut indie. Don't know much of anything about Dispatch other than that many factions of embarrassing gamer nerds are going crazy for it. Might be big with the Undertale crowd. Horrible. Point has to go to Expedition 33 for being something I actually kind of want to play. Not a lot of games can boast that. For best indie game, that isn't necessarily a debut though. Silksong's on the card. Unlucky. Any day now, gamers, it's coming. Ball Pit is the second and final game from this year that I've played. I thought it was fine. Had to object to in a Vampire Survivors-y kind of way. I thought there'd be more to the gameplay going in. It kind of turns into an idle game by the end. Can you imagine, people, having the nerve to nominate Final Fantasy XIV for Best Community Support so soon after Guna 9/11? I don't know what the community support for any of these other games looks like. No Man's Sky's bad, and always has been. Don't let the weirdos saying that the game got fixed post-launch and doesn't suck now trick you. Baldur's Gate's bad, they make you fight a ghost for 3 hours. Fortnite I've still never played because it's bad. Give it to Helldivers. Why not? I liked the first one. Will retract that award if it turns out the community support is horrible, actually. Ooh, it's all the same guys again, except now Marvel Rivals is here. Shockingly, I've not actually played that one. Marvel Rivals looks exactly the same as Fortnite to me. I assume this is a me problem, or maybe when you reach a certain age, something about the designs in both just becomes inherently repellent. Marvel is fundamentally all a load of bullshit anyway. I think Helldivers 2 is probably good, but I'm not sure anyone plays it anymore, so is it technically ongoing? I'm gonna give the award to Final Fantasy, because I played that one a bit, this year even. It's fun, if you have friends you want to make excuses to hang out with, and you haven't yet had the idea to play Morrowind together instead. And this might be the hardest one of the whole set, to be honest. Games for Impact apparently means whatever epic will be espousing some social cause, and I don't know what that cause is, because I've not heard of a single one of them. I picked Wanderstop, because the little flower man here is cute. Did I do good? Or did I just vote that we should light all homeless people on fire? No way to tell. I am sorry if this is all very annoying to you. I expect it might be to a lot of gamers out there. It would have been to me, maybe 10 years ago. I see you. I've been you. And I understand. Being a gamer and knowing all about the fresh new video games that were coming out used to be a big and important part of my personality, too. I'd watch trailers and read articles and dev interviews. I probably imbibed a lot of Jeff's past work without even realizing it over the years. I used to play everything, good and bad, just to have a solid opinion about it in case someone ever asked. Because that was my thing, you know? You gotta have a thing. I've never followed sports, so it couldn't be that. I've always been slightly embarrassed by my own music tastes. Couldn't be movies, that's my brother's thing. I took the one that was left. And I amassed a collection of Xbox 360 discs, big enough to kill a man if dropped from a modest height. I was exactly the kind of person back then who'd have cared immensely about the Game Awards. Ceasing to be that person has been a gradual process, but also painless, like forgetting a dream. Nothing tangible is missing. Video games still remain my primary hobby, although I spend like £50 on them per year. And I guess I never really dropped the self-image that I was the video game knower about her, you know? Even though the video games I know about are rapidly dissipating into sepia-toned nostalgia and annoying YouTube videos titled, "The Game That Nobody Remembers." And being able to recite Vice City weapon cheat codes from memory is a less relevant skill now than it ever has been. This is what I was thinking about when I started the funny top 10 list, where I almost exclusively talk about games I've never played and don't have any interest in. That's what it's all been about, really. Not so much moving on, but realizing that I already did when nobody was looking, and unpacking how we all feel about that in hindsight. I do want to stress, though, that I don't think there's anything profoundly wrong with modern video games. A lot of people fall out of favour with something as they grow up and they decide that, no, it's the children who are wrong. Games are too casual these days, too colourful, too political. There's too many gays and fucking women. I do think that industry practices are, demonstrably, worse than they ever have been. And that all the major gaming companies are unrepentantly slimy hives of scum and villainy. And I think fan culture's more cult-like and viscerally toxic than ever before seen in human history. But as for the product itself, I mean, I wouldn't know. It's not something I'd be likely to engage with. Modern AAA video games are too expensive for me to experiment with much, and I do tend to bounce off them, so why bother? Besides which, I've completely divested from the orbit of modern gaming trends. I never liked hero shooters, or battle royales, or MMOs. Modern games want me to explore open worlds. I would rather play through tightly curated little levels. Modern games are always trying to connect me with other players. I'd prefer everyone in the world just fuck off and let me play my stupid game. Most of the things I actually like in video games are the kinds of practices that modern gamers decry as archaic. And that's fine, I'll just be archaic. I am literally only here to have fun. And if my idea of fun doesn't line up with modern practices, I guess I'll just play the old shit. God knows there's enough of it to keep me going for a lifetime. What up my Philistines? Knowing about video games used to be a big and important part of my personality. And maybe I worried sometimes that there wasn't anything at all underneath that. That was pure gimmick. But time's moved on and I've got more comfortable here. In my own skin. I've made friends who I love and don't need to prove anything to at all. If I had nothing to say about hot new releases and the state of the gaming industry, I could just be silent and that wouldn't change. I'm a different person now, in a different era, in a different period of my life, and that's fine. I think there comes a time when you realize that you don't need to be a type of guy, regardless of what the industry men in suits and all the forces of capital will tell you. You can literally just do whatever, and only engage with the stuff you're passionate about, and not buy anyone's garbage if you don't want to. It's not like the world needs more gamers. Oh hey, it's you again. I have a message for you. Oh shit! That's the award alarm, folks, and that means that the last batch of awards are finally here. We're counting down to the big one now. Who's gonna win that coveted Fruity Award for thing that looks best out of all the things I didn't actually play? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and if this video makes it to 1 squillion likes, I'll do the next Oscars too. Hey, maybe there is something to this acting like an adult thing. I can't imagine the VGAs ever having an Innovation in Accessibility Award. Maybe a Mountain Dew Award for Innovation in Accessibility, sponsored by Doritos. I think accessibility is neat, and something worth striving for. I think every game should try and be playable to as many people as possible, and I think we're all one bad fall from being disabled and needing to be accommodated for. Not that people shouldn't be able to just make their game super easy or whatever if they just want to. This is the only award that comes with a little tab to click on to hear more about the entrants, which I could have used for most of the other awards. Before we start though, I think as a baseline to accessibility, you first have to make a thing that anyone would ever want to experience in the first place, so Assassin's Creed and the sports thing are out. Also, kind of a tangent again, sometimes I'll just turn on colorblind mods in games. I'm not colorblind, but I think it looks neat. I remember in one game, I think it was a Call of Duty or something, it made all the fire green, which was cool. The game sucked. Anyway, this is how I came to tell Doom 2016 to go colorblind mode and found out that it just made the game black and white. Don't know if that was meant to be a joke, or if everyone involved was just really stupid, but either way, unhelpful. According to this very reputable tab, the new one does a lot more, letting you adjust game speed and timings and things. But if I haven't played any of the new games, it's all I can do to judge them by the sins of their forefathers. The other two games I've traditionally never heard of, but what I'm reading sounds rad. Apparently Atomfall has some kind of audio-based aiming assist for players with low vision. No idea how that would work, but I'm intrigued. Give them the point. Best performance next, and 3 of them are from the same dang game. I really do gotta play Expedition 33. And there's Troib, colour me surprised. I've heard exactly one of these performances, that being the main character from Hilf, who I think did a really good job, have a point. I will note here, it's specifically the Japanese voice actors who I think did a really good job. The English voice actors in Forte are doing some genuinely intolerable, horrific baby speak 4Kids anime dub bullshit. They collectively get the award for worst performances, which doesn't exist. You can play the game subbed rather than dubbed, but You're just making it an order of magnitude worse for no reason if you don't uncheck that option before you start the game. Best sounds! To the best of my knowledge, all of these games have them in some capacity, provided Ghosts of Yotai is a real extant product. I could just give it to Hilf again for making sounds this year that I actually ever heard, but I'm imagining the sound of Norman Reedus planting a big wet smooch on that baby's forehead, and that's making me happy. Point to Kojima. Now, soundtrack does have Silksong on it, and I do have a personal philosophy about that, but as much as Supergiant only make bad video games now, Darren Korb is still kind of a genius when it comes to music. I've heard a lot of Silksong's soundtrack watching Kish play, underneath the bellows of frustration as the funny bug lady bumps her head on a spike for the 40th time. And it's really good, but I can't imagine the music in Hades 2, The Secret of the Ooze, isn't better. A speculative point goes to the Corbster. Art direction's also a tough one. The cartoon people in Hades are very hot. Silksong's coming out soon though, and it did take the already sharp style of the original Hollow Knight and polish it to a mirror sheen. I think all things being equal, I'd just give it to Hornet, but a small yet loud cadre of unbearable freaks who also don't play video games but get a lot angrier than me about them, did take it upon themselves to transvestigate the goddess Aphrodite this year, and I think it'd be neat if Hades won the award and we could juice a little more venom out of them. Point goes to Hades, hope they trans the whole pantheon. Maybe that'd be the last straw that causes the quartering to go into cardiac arrest or something. Brother, they nominated Expedition 33 for fucking everything. It can't be Death Stranding. I played the first one, and that's one of the most incoherent games I've ever struggled through. There's been a turn against Kojima's writing and Metal Gear as a whole recently in the public consciousness, and I fully disagree. The original Metal Gears are some of the premier works of millennial art. Kojima's a man with a lot of deep thoughts about the nature of warfare and heroism, all poisoned by trashy action media. So are we all. His story is one about living in a world that seems to function purely for the advancement of weapons of phenomenal killing power, and not knowing if you think that's horrific or kinda cool actually. There's a bunch of weird nonsense in there, sure, but having to stop and watch a lady with her tits out uppercut a man with a motorcycle, or having to fight a guy made of bees every now and then, is the hook that keeps you on the line. Yeah, there's too many cutscenes, and too much talking. Agreed. The beginning of Metal Gear 2 is a complete slog. I'm not here to argue they're perfect, they're just really, really good. I think a lot of people don't realise in general that the state of writing in video games is, and always has been, an order of magnitude worse than other mediums. And when something like The Last of Us comes along, they heap praise on it, despite the fact that it's no more technically proficient than the average Marvel movie. Kojima's among the best we've got, love of schlock and all. The man puts a lot of himself in his shit and isn't afraid to say things. That's what artists should be. Death Stranding did lose me at Heartman though, the man whose heart is shaped like a love heart and he lives in the heart-shaped portion of the map, and every 13 minutes he stops his heart so he can go explore the afterlife. I've got a Kojima limit, I guess. But if you want to call someone out as a hack, do Nomura. That man is probably the worst writer of all time and a criminal. I'm giving my award to Silent Hill Forte. You've probably heard mixed things if you've had your ear to the ground, like I obviously haven't. Opinion in the gamosphere is split from it's really, really good to it's pretty fucking bad, hovering around it's not quite as good as the 2 remake. Hilf is a wild and abstract journey steeped in symbolism and heavily femme-coded. So gamers, who hate women and are more consistently stupid than any other type of person, tend not to get it. The same people who jump to the defense of 2's wife-killing asshole, James Sunderland, are not welcome here. The Bloober remake of Silent Hill 2 turned a tightly paced supernatural rumination on crime and punishment into a 15-hour slog about hitting haunted mannequins with a stick. But a barrage of intentional negative press at the outset meant that when the game launched and was flatly and miserably made, people reacted like it was the second coming of Team Silent. As a long-suffering Silent Hill fan, Forte gives me what no shit Bloober remake ever could. Hope for the future. Ugh, it's all the same guys again. This one's for best direction, and I don't really even know what that entails. I think we've just done the awards for each component aspect of this, and now it's the whole thing. I've told you how I feel about all of these things along the way, I suppose, with maybe the exception of Yotai, which I've not heard of. Give it to Expedition 33. I'm gonna play it someday. And here it is, folks. Game of the Year. Donkey Kong's out. Jeff didn't even let Steve Wiebe finish. It's kind of funny that Kingdom Come's allowed to be here at all. Hades is terrible, and Death Stranding is nonsense. So we're head-to-head with Expedition 33 and Silksong, a game that isn't out yet, but it's coming. Now here's the thing. Silksong, until recently, was a bad joke. It was down in the Duke Nukem Forever hole with Half-Life 3. A constant string of delays, while meanwhile the original game soared out of nowhere to ubiquitous popularity, turning it into something of a gaming cryptid. People forget, Hollow Knight didn't do bad on release by any stretch, and a lot of people loved it. I played it before it was cool. But it was later down the line that, like, a bunch of Zoomer Undertale dogs picked it up for some reason and wouldn't shut up about it. Or the proposed sequel. Personally, I figured the project would get dropped entirely, or would come out and be fine, maybe even as good as the first one, but not good enough that I couldn't have a long-haired laugh about it. So when it dropped and was phenomenal, I confess to feeling a little bad about my previous japes. Intended as a smaller expansion to the Hollow Knight canon, Scope Bloat has rendered the game into something as large as the original, and with substantially less of that content being tied up in boring arenas. Hence, I'm sure, a lot of the delays. The first one was like a solid 8 out of 10 moody walk with impeccable vibes and about 1,000 player deaths, and Silksong is more and better. The characters you walk into this time around are charming and memorable, with Honey actually being able to talk back to them, and being pretty cool herself. The battles are sharp and punishing as ever, but with a more mechanically aggressive player character, and greater emphasis on player choice in how you tailor her loadout. The game does expect nothing short of mastery from you, however. There's not a whole lot of flaw in some of those areas. In terms of difficulty throughout the game, it's best described as rude, descending occasionally into mild sadism. And the first one's almost required reading just to set a baseline of mechanical grounding. But by the sequel, you'll find the style and sound and elements of graphical flourish universally a step above the earlier one. It feels like Hollow Knight has done some serious soul-searching and figured out exactly what kind of guy it wants to be moving forwards. Silksong is kind of fire, and it's my pick for Game of the Year. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed again. Out!